In the last episode, you heard from Kyle Ewing, CEO of TerraSlate, who shared how to market unsexy B2B products through e-commerce. Today, on episode number 44, get ready. William Goodall is the founder of Bay Smokes, one of the largest online dispensaries. And today, we'll be talking about how to grow a brand in a space where restrictions limit traditional advertising options. And I mean, pretty much every option. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of Splitbase. And this is Minds of Ecommerce. Now, this episode is also brought to you by Splitbase. At Splitbase, we help leading 8 and 9-figure brands such as Dr. Squatch, Hyperice, and Amica grow through customer-focused conversion optimization programs. Our optimization program pinpoints exactly where your store is losing money most, and then, well, we help you fix it. The result, increased conversions, higher AOV, and of course, more money, allowing you to scale advertising more profitably. Now, we've been at it for over a decade, and we can help you manage CRO from A to Z. From customer research, conversion design, strategy, copywriting, and development, we focus on growing your e-commerce sales while you get to focus on what you do best. Request a proposal today on splitbase.com to learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend. All right. Well, William, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as you know, now this podcast is all about going deep and dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away. Now, I think in your case, what's interesting is there may not be a single growth strategy because those tend to have a bit of an expiration date, being in a regulated industry and being in such a competitive space. So definitely looking forward to hearing a bit more about that. But maybe just to give our listeners more context, can you tell us a bit more about how long it's been that you've founded the company and what type of scale it's achieved over those couple of years?
Sure. So Base Smokes as a company is maybe 4.5 years old. Although I've been in the space for more like seven since the actual farm bill passed. I was kind of like in this space trying to figure out how to do an e-commerce company. We started doing like CBD tinctures and stuff, and eventually transitioned it into like recreational hemp THC products. Um, and since starting it, we're now over 8 figures monthly in revenue. So I'm super stoked with what we've been able to achieve.
Awesome. Well, first, congrats on that. But definitely, I want to talk about growth. You guys have tried a lot of different techniques now. Most of the brands we have on this podcast, right? They talk about Meta, they talk about Google. You guys are in a bit of a different game. So when you're in such a regulated industry, let's just start maybe with some of the basics. How do you get to 8 figures?
So I started off the company doing social media marketing. And
Mm,
it was basically during COVID when this happened. It was super lax social media regulation, I guess, around like moderation, I'll say. So pretty much all things
mm,
was getting a lot less moderated. And I was able to make funny videos, just good comedic videos, and have them go viral organically. And then I would just pay a bunch of meme pages to repost the videos. So,
mm.
kind of meme page marketing with Instagram primarily, and also other platforms, but primarily Instagram. That was like the big thing that got us. I mean, within the first month, I think my first month revenue was like 150,000. Second month was like 450,000 or something. So it's like
Amazing.
really quickly we got off going. And it's not like I didn't first come up with making videos that month. Like I guess prior to that, my girlfriend and I had been making social media content, and I understood like the background of how to make viral social media content. And this was
Right.
kind of just my
Mm,
first like, hey, let's apply this to a cool, unique product that I don't see anyone in this entire industry marketing using this tactic. So we were kind of the first people doing this type of marketing. And it was during a period where social media was getting like no regulation. So the videos were going super viral. And for like a good couple months, we were uninhibited growth straight upwards.
Love it.
But then everything was getting deleted. All my social media accounts were getting deleted. All the posts, every time I would pay a meme page to post it, it would all get deleted. And then we had to find new methods. So a lot of it is just constantly cycling of like finding new methods of what's going to work. A lot of it was through social media though. And so, when one stops working, you pick up a different strategy.
Hmm. So that's super interesting. Obviously, most brands would freak out, and maybe you did at
Yeah,
the
I
thought
certainly
that
did. Yeah.
at the thought that their main acquisition channel is disappearing and starting to disappear overnight. Now,
After a short period of time too.
totally. Now, like how do you deal with that? Like you make it sound, and I'm sure it wasn't easy, but obviously, when you say, "Oh, now those disappeared and now we had to find other channels." I know very few brands that would, be able to turn on a dime like that, if their meta ad accounts would get deleted overnight. So tell me more about like what happens? Like how like obviously now you've been running this brand for a couple years, so evidently there maybe is a process to how you find the next growth channels. How do you find those next channels? Is there a process? Is it luck?
I think it's obsession, like
Mm,
I'm just constantly thinking all the time, day in and day out, like how do I do things to improve the business? How do I test out different things that may or may not work? And I mean, I guess also coming from the background of content creation, and my girlfriend full time is like a social media creator. And so I'm observing everything she's doing all the time and seeing kind of like constant new trends and stuff. And that's kind of her mindset of success in her industry. And in the same sense, it's like, okay, I'm taking a similar mindset into this industry. It's like you're always kind of
mm,
constantly looking for what's the next thing. And I mean, if you just spend your 12, 14 hours every single day for 7 years, obsessing over one topic, you kind of like are
yeah,
constantly just spitting out new ideas all the time and just like, hey, let's test this out, let's test this out, let's test this out. So it's kind of that being the base mindset.
mm,
Um, but also I guess having some insider observation to someone who's super successful in a social media field. And so I'm using social media market, whether you're marketing a personality or a product, it's very similar concepts, just kind of applied in different ways. And when one
right.
thing works, and this is like across all social media, it's like as a podcast too, you can look at like, oh, this concept was super successful in this person's podcast. How do I, rehash this to my own niche, and it will very likely be successful as well. So kind of
Mm,
that's just the nonstop mindset of like looking in all other similar niches or things where I can kind of like apply similar concepts and redoing the same thing.
right.
um yeah.
Great. So looking for inspiration, obviously beyond what the industry
Yeah,
is
yeah.
used to at the end
Hmm.
of the day. Now, when you started, you were heavily leveraging, kind of those social and meme accounts. And you probably quickly realized that you can't have all your eggs in the same basket when it comes to traffic acquisition. So like today, when you're thinking about, the brand, like how many different acquisition channels are you trying to have at the same time? Like, is there a number?
I wouldn't say there's a number necessarily. I mean, everything kind of boils down to like what do you have the bandwidth on your team for? And
Mm,
so I mean, I guess like my overall current strategy now is relies more so on building team members that are able to manage different acquisition channels and
right.
then train them and work with them to make sure that their channel is profitable.
Mm,
And this is across all sorts of, multiple niches of social media content, multiple different platforms, multiple different methods. And this
mm,
is from anywhere of like, people, I still have people trying to test paid ads channels, even though it's not smooth. It's not a smooth process at all. Like if I was selling, t-shirts or fidget spinners or something like that, you can make a meta ads account, but it gets deleted, if you
yeah.
break the thin gray line that's like not very clear which side you're on at any given point. Twitter ads thankfully allows us to do stuff, but it's we haven't had like overwhelming amounts of success with any paid ads channel nearly as much with like creative channels like content creation, working with different influencers. And where I say also like making partnerships with people. So it's like um, we've started multiple celebrity brands where, I offer, I guess, a creative deal structure. I haven't really heard of other people offering, but I'll go to celebrity. And this is when I first founded the company too. It was like 2 months in, I met somebody who was a friend of, or he was like an employee, I guess, of a famous rapper, Tory Lanez. And I was just like buying ads from all the meme pages at that time. And that was starting to slow down because they were all getting deleted. And so I heard
Mm.
from him, I was like, hey, can I buy from him? And otherwise I had no idea how I would have bought an ad from a rapper to promote my weed company. But I met this guy, I asked him, and he got back to me like the next day, hey, Tori doesn't want to like just do paid promotion. He only works with things that he's like a part of. And I was like, okay, what if I made him a brand? I could just make him a brand and we'll just make packaging for him and everything. We'll do a profit share and I think he'll make even more money that way. And ultimately, yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm down. So I went over, met with him, kind of figured it out, and everything was kind of figuring out on the spot. I guess I was 21 at the time, and I didn't really know so much about how any of this should have gone or should have looked like or anything. I just kind of got creative. I was like, hey, well, you've got marketing capability. I can kind of manage all the stuff on the back end, finance, and take the liability. Let's see if we can work out a profit share that makes sense. And we did that, and it was super successful. And he was able to access even more marketing
Mm.
channels that I wasn't able to. For example, he went on a
Of course.
podcast, and the whole time that he's on the podcast, he's like smoking a blunt. And the first 15 minutes, he walks in, he's smoking a blunt. He gets everybody in there to smoke the blunt and try it. And they're like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, this is my weed brand. It's available here, basemokes.com. And they're all like gassing it up so much. Like, oh, this is the best weed ever. Like, I don't normally don't like weed, but this is the best stuff ever. You guys all got to go
Amazing.
try this. And I didn't pay a dime for that. And it should have been
Mm.
worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably that
So
promotion. And it drove tons and tons of sales. So
that's so
all from just a
interesting.
creative partnership.
And I love that strategy, but I'm curious how, you're building this brand for this celebrity. How interlinked is it with, say, Bay Smokes, the main brand? Is it on Bay Smokes website? Is it a separate brand? What's kind of the relationship and how is that fueling the brand's growth beyond the celebrity brand?
Yeah. So at first, we actually had all of the products on the Bay Smokes website, and eventually we made it a separate website because I figured like, okay, like this will be more fair. Ultimately, I want them,
Hmm.
repurchasing when they're repurchasing. I want to repurchase. Of course, I want my brand to grow, but I also
Right.
want to be fair to the marketers because whenever you're doing a partnership with a good marketer, you need to make sure they're getting paid as much as possible. Like whenever
Yep.
you set up a structure with someone who's like a high level performer, you almost want to just take the minority cut as the facilitator and just let them make the most of the money because
Hmm.
they need to be maximally incentivized to keep going full steam ahead. So setting up his own website with it was only his products on it, but it was still optimized for conversions and everything. That ended up making him more consistently get more and more money. And so then he was more motivated to go out and do more creative things for marketing. But it started being on the Basement side. And of course, all of us was just like, all right, we were spinning up as we went along. So when that podcast thing happened that he did, the products were on the Bay Smokes website, and there was like
Hmm.
a huge growth in his numbers
I'm
the
sure.
first 2 months, and then it kind of went down. And he's like, "Hey man, why did it go down?" But my numbers were still up. I was like, "Oh shit, they're buying my products now instead of yours." So I was like, "I want to change this. I want to make it fair, so that we can keep this partnership going." Because it's like, yeah, that's how do I keep finding creative new? I call them closed loops, where it's like, okay, I set up this person in this system, and they're profitably spending money. And I guess my goal as the owner of the business is like, and in this space, how many acquisition channels do I have? Is like how many closed loops can I set up where this person is going, they know how to run things, and they're creating good amounts of money for themselves. They have a good incentive structure, and they're
Mm.
making the business money and they're growing.
I think the quote of the day really is, when you find the great partner that makes you a lot of money, you want them to make as much money as possible,
Yeah,
right?
as much as possible.
I love it. Now, I'm kind of curious about your team structure because obviously, you have to innovate on those channels quite a bit. You have, those celebrity partnerships as well. But like I'm curious, normally an acquisition team is going to be pretty straightforward with people, assigned to specific channels, or maybe for smaller teams, one person for a couple different channels. In your case, when you need those teams to innovate and find new channels, what does it look like?
Um, I'd say I'm I'm a big factor in the finding of new channels, and I have a couple other high level people that are also with me searching for new channels. And the process is more so like, a few high level people looking for these new channels,
Hmm.
and then building a team like this closed loops that I say of people to manage it or people to own responsibility for that channel. And then lots of uh, like brainstorming meetings with all the people all the time, individually to kind of discuss the project or the area or the space that they're focused on, and how do we innovate? How do we make improvements? What's a roadblock and how do we get over that? Um, but it's a lot of brainstorming ideas and testing like
Hmm.
that kind of mindset is kind of instilled and goes down throughout everyone in the company. It's all kind of about how do we keep looking for ways to
Yeah.
innovate and change up things, because a lot of stuff will go stale always in kind of
Yeah.
all aspects of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that ideation has to be part of the culture. Otherwise, if you've got someone who really likes just clear processes, like that's not going to work in your case.
Not for marketing teams, no.
Yeah. So when you think about kind of all the marketing that you've done over the past couple of years, what do you think maybe is one of the biggest marketing mistakes that you've made through that process of scaling and innovating?
There's definitely been situations where I was too loose with money, in the
Mm,
sense of, and it's hard to call it like a mistake because I got to where I am also, I guess, being loose with money. And like, the idea is like, you got to take risk in marketing. And
yeah.
if you don't take risks, then you're never going to grow. Um, but there were some dumb risks that I took, and some like leaks in the ship. I'll say is like, I had a non-closed loop. I was trying to be too ambitious, setting up too many new acquisition channels, and didn't properly give the attention to each one. And one, for example, is like got somebody in it. Oh man, I had somebody that was in charge of the Twitter ads account for a while, and I kind of like wasn't paying a lot of attention to that because so much other stuff was like succeeding way,
Mm,
a lot. So I was more focused over here. And I go back and look over here. It's like, oh my God, we're burning six figures a month, and it's not converting at all. Like, how did this happen? Like, and that's what I'll say. It's like, it feels like the biggest mistake of like, okay, just because there's a lot of success in one area, other areas get more or less ignored, and if they're
mm,
getting ignored to whatever extent, and they're hemorrhaging money, like that's like uh, a really bad situation. And that the joke in the company is like the sales hide the sends, and it's like that's kind of been a this year particularly has been a lot of like going back and accountability of looking at everything and making sure all of our dollars are really like being held accountable for, and
mm,
everything, especially marketing spend, because you know, we were testing out too many things, and there wasn't enough um, strict management of all the dollars being spent. So there was a lot of waste happening,
mm.
and
So,
ultimately, it's like, yeah, just because we're growing, if we just didn't have all this waste, we would actually have
yeah.
have a lot more profit to go out and spend on more things that are actually working.
For sure. But on that, do you like right now, do you have a specific percentage of your budget that goes towards finding new channels only? Or it's a bit more loose?
It's really disorganized. It's really disorganized. Like I don't tell my marketing team ever like, hey guys, this month we have $1 million marketing
Right.
budget and we want 40% to go here and 30% here.
Mm,
Um, I'd say it's more so like the way that I look at this because you know it's essentially a hyper growth industry. We're coming out of prohibition, right? And
hmm
so this is the first generation of cannabis companies that have access federally. Like, this is a really unique and cool space, but it's a space where, I mean, now and for the next however many years, the growth is going to be insane. So the way that I see it, every dollar I have free and available is going into marketing as long as there's a reasonable way to spend it. And so I don't cap anybody on what is like the budget. I just tell them like, hey, if you find a good way and it seems like it's making sense, like how I like doing stuff is test stuff with like a couple $1,000. If it seems like it's working, then it's test something with like low tens of thousands of
mm,
dollars. And then it seems like working, let's spend like 100,000 or a couple 100,000 or what, and just keep trying to scale and see if your method is
yeah.
scalable. Like that's kind of every person's initiative is like, test it small, test it in the middle, and then let's try to scale it large. And if there's an opportunity that's like, hey, let's go get a Super Bowl commercial, but we're confident it's going to work because we tested it with $300,000 on these other smaller games, and so let's go spend a couple million. It's like I told, we will find a way to make any amount of dollar work for marketing because in this space, it's like it's hard to find big spends, but if you can prove it on the scales, it's probably going to work on the bigger scale too. And, we would love to be able to get those marketing dollars out the door to see if we can generate new
Mm,
customer acquisitions, tell new people about this. Cause still it's like most people don't know about it.
yeah.
We're selling a product that it's like people would love if they knew about it. We just got to educate them. Hey, this is a thing now. You can get this to your door.
Amazing. We've been talking with William Goodall, who's the founder of Bay Smokes. Now, William, this was an amazing conversation. I wish I could keep going and going, but
Sure.
we have tons of actionable nuggets. But if people are interested in learning more about you or the brand, where should they go?
Well, the brand is basemokes.com. I have personal social media. Trying to start posting more on it myself because I like sharing, entrepreneurial stuff because ultimately I was inspired. I was inspired. I dropped out of college because I saw young kids on the internet making a lot of money doing e-commerce stuff. So I want to start posting more stuff about education and that. But my Instagram is William G and then 4TH.
Amazing. William, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.